Hello everybody, I am Akshata Rai. I am the Assistant Professor for Environmental Science, the Oxford College of Science. Today's topic again, we move on to environmental movements. So we would have all heard about environmental movements or certain movements which are carried out or certain people or a group of people who came together to fight for a particular cause. The cause is something that is environmentally related, that is for environmental purposes, against the destruction of forests, it can be against the pollution, it can be for various causes in order to protect the environment. Such movements are called as environmental movements. Now, humans can only survive in healthy environments. This is something that all of us know. But still, what we do, we misuse the natural resources in the form of land degradation, water pollution, deforestation, and many more such forms by which we bring about the depletion of the natural resources. Even though we know that require, or we can survive only in healthy environments, but still we continue to carry out this destruction. Voluntary organizations are trying to regain the environment by non-violent movements. So, what do you mean by environmental movements? Environmental movements, simply put, can be told as wherein voluntary organizations. These are not paid organizations. They're not paid by the government, or they're not paid by any other body or by any other forms. These are voluntary organizations which are trying to regain the environment. That is, they are trying to protect the natural resources, or they are trying to conserve the animals, etc., by non-violent movements. That is, they are not going in for fights, they are not going in for war, but they are doing it for by non-violent ways. Certain disastrous incidents also led to the destruction of the ecosystem, like the Bhopal gas tragedy, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, etc. Now, here in this, if you take this scenario into consideration, you are directly involved. We as humans are directly involved in it, and we are not involved, and we are not responsible for it also. How we are involved? Because we are the ones who set up these, gas chambers, or we are the ones who set up these nuclear chambers, nuclear powerhouses, etc., for our benefits. But we are not related. We are not. We are not responsible for it in a way that, because what happened was a tragedy. What happened was something that was unexpected. What happened was something that we couldn't control. So as a result of which, such incidents also lead to the depletion of the environment. Now, environmental movements are scientific, social, political movements to address the environment. Now, these environmental movements are, in a way, they are scientific because we are protecting the environment here. Because of by knowing the nature, we are able to see the how the degradation is going to affect us in the future and all that. That's why it's a scientific. It's a social movement because it involves all the people in the world. It's not restricted to a certain ethnicity or to a certain group of people, and it is political in a way because there are sometimes there are conflicts between the states. So there are interstate conflicts, there are inter-country conflicts. So as a result of it, it can turn political also. Environmentalists supported the management of resources through changes in public policy and individual behavior. So, how do we bring about these change, or what are these environmental movements focusing on, or what are they targeting? They are targeting at changing the public policy and individual behavior. They're targeting at changing the mentality of the people. Only then we can prevent the environment. How can you prevention or the destruction of the environment be stopped? It is only through changing the behavior individual at the individualistic level. Okay, it need not be at a level of a group. It has to go into the individualistic level. Every individual has to take a decision that he or she will protect the environment. Now, emergence of social movements depends on three factors. That is, whenever there has to be a social movement has to start, or whenever you decide to start a social movement, there are three factors which are involved in it. One, the social movements developed by broader political constraints and opportunities. Here again, we are talking about the interstate conflicts, or it can be the conflicts between the different nations for water bodies, like the Kaveri conflict or the all those Narmada Bachao Andolan and all that. So it can be due to political. It can bypass the political constraints, and there can be social movements. The organizational resources, formal as well as informal, must be available to activate people and sustain a movement. Now, for any environmental movement to start, or any environmental movement to get into motion, there should be one body, or there should be one group of people who are very concerned about this, and they want to start this activation, and thereby they involve the rest of the people. Thereby they, what do you say, encourage the other people to get involved in this movement. So it has to be started by a particular organization. It can be an NGO, it can be volunteers as such. joint process of interpretation, attribution, and social construction. So finally, at the end of these movements, what do you basically want? You want interpretation, that is what is happening, you want a clear picture of what are the consequences it is leading to, what is the charges that is happening, changes that is happening in the environment, all that. Attribution, that is you should attribute these to human activities, that is why is this change happening, or why is there a depletion in the environment? It is due to the what are the reasons that are, or due to the causes, or due to the destruction that is formed by, or brought about by the human beings. And social construction, that is you have to come up with ideas, you have to come up with new techniques so that this destruction can be stopped, or this depletion of the environment in itself can be stopped. So these are the three factors which will lead to the formation or development of a social movement. Now, the environmental movements are of three levels. That is, there are three levels of environmental movements. You have the local grassroots level of movements, the social movement level, and a cycle of protests. Now, what is the local grassroots level of movements? Local grassroots level of movements includes movements which are carried out in a particular area. For example, if you're talking about HSR layout, then there will be certain problems, environmental problems, which are regarding only this area. Okay, it can be the what do you say? It can be the waste disposal problems, or it can be the groundwater contamination problems. All these are restricted only to a particular area and to a particular region. So there the movement also, or the activation activists also will be localized. That is, the activists who are involved in this, the NGOs which are involved in this, the volunteers who are involved in this are localized. That is, they will be of only this particular area. This is, and it will be of a low level. It will not be a very high level protest. It will not be a very high level movement. It will be a silent movement in a way, only to inculcate the necessary knowledge into the people. So these are the local grassroots level of movements. The social movement level is again something that has it can be between the states, it can be between the nations, a movement at a larger level. That is, it can be about the climate, it can be about the pollution, it can be about afforestation, I mean it can be about deforestation, or it can be to introduce afforestation. So all these higher level movements, which include a lot of NGOs, which include a lot of groups of people, etc., is a social movement level. Now, what is a cycle of protest? A cycle of protest basically involves a continuous process. That is, there has been a continuous depletion in some kind of environment. Easiest example for this would be global warming. Now, global warming is something that you are not protesting for a stipulated period of time. It is something that is going on. It is something that for which we have taken measures already. Again, sewage treatment, your waste disposal, segregation, or whatever it is. All these are continuous movements. That is, it has been carried out for years together now, as well as it is carried out in the different nations, it is carried out in the different states, it is carried out in the different districts also. So this is what you call as a cycle of protest. So these are the different kind of movements. Now, environmental movements in India has played a key role in three areas. That is, mostly the environmental movements which have been introduced in India or started in India have played a key role in major three areas. One, in creating public awareness about the importance of bringing about balance between the environment and development. Like I said, in any movement, what is more important is enlightening the people, educating the people, and only if the people change and their behavior towards the environment change, only then changes can be brought about, or only when they reciprocate can changes be brought about. So creating public awareness is one. In opposing developmental projects that are amicable to social and developmental concerns. So there are certain developmental projects which are necessary, but there are certain developmental projects which you can do without, and which are causing huge or greater damage than the benefits that you're getting from it. So as a result of which, such developmental projects can be opposed, or they can be stopped. In organizing model projects for natural resource management systems, or you can come up with alternate resources, or you can come out with alternate models, or you can come out with alternate ways for maintaining the natural resources. This is again where your environmental movements have played a very important role in. Now, reasons for emergence of environmental movements in India. What are the reasons that environmental movements actually start? So previously we talked about what are the areas in which environmental movements can occur. Now, what are the reasons for the emergence of the environmental movements, especially in India? One, control over natural resources. That is, natural resources were being depleted, and they were being wasted. They were being used as per the human's wish. So that in order to prevent that, control over natural resources was required, and therefore thereby we started the movements. False development policies of the government. There were certain developmental policies, like I said, they were doing more harm than the good, than the benefit that you could get from it. So, as a result of which, such false developmental policies had to be stopped. Socio-economic reasons, again, for reasons of protecting the natural resources for the future generations, for other economic reasons, also environmental movements were started. Environmental degradation and destruction, to prevent the degradation and destruction of the environment itself, these environmental movements were started. And spread of environmental awareness and media, to spread the awareness about the importance of retaining these natural resources for the future generations, because it takes a very long time to replenish. Now we look into some of the movements in detail. The first one is the Bishnoi movement. The Bishnoi movement was started 400 years ago by sage Sombaji in Rajasthan. The Bishnoi movement was started by a person called as Sombaji, who was a sage in Rajasthan around 400 years ago. Bishnois are a non-violent community of nature worshippers of Rajasthan in Western India. So this community, they basically are a very non-violent community. They believe in non-violence, and they're nature worshippers. Basically, they believe in nature worshipping. This group was founded by Guru Jambeshwar after a drought in the Marwar region of Rajasthan. They worship Lord Vishnu, hence the sect is called as a Bishnoi. Now, this group or this sect of people was founded by Guru Jambeshwar after a drought in the Marwar region of Rajasthan. He founded this sect, and since they mainly believe in Lord Vishnu, hence they are named as Bishnoi. The Bishnois follow 29 principles which are tailored to conserve biodiversity of the area, but also ensures eco-friendly social life. So once there was a drought in this region, a guru called Jambeshwar, he came up with a principle that it's only if we protect the environment can we also survive in a better way. So as a result of which, he created this sect called as a Bishnoi sect, and he also introduced 29 principles, and all these 29 principles concentrate on conservation of biodiversity and eco-friendly measures or eco-friendly social life. Bishnois are strong devotees of wild animals, and hence they are protected in Bishnoi dominated areas. So wherever this sect of Bishnois are seen nowadays, of course they have moved on to newer regions, they have moved on to newer areas. So wherever the Bishnois are present, they are very strong devotees. They not only are very not only do they worship the biodiversity, not only do they worship the nature, they also worship the wild animals. So wherever these Bishnois are present, the wild animals are protected. So this was the first of its kind movement which developed the policy of hugging of trees for their protection. So in the Bishnoi movement also you can see that they used to hug the trees in order to prevent them from being cut off. So this was one of the movements which started this concept of tree hugging in order to prevent the cutting down of trees. So this was about the Bishnoi movement. So moving on to the Chipko movement, this was another important movement which was the most successful of all the other movements, and it also gained worldwide attention, and it also was a very successful campaign. Now, the Chipko movement basically wanted to concentrate the world's attention on the environmental problems of the Alaknanda catchment area in the Midwestern Himalayas. That is, the Chipko movement, the people who were involved in the movement wanted to catch the world's attention towards the Alaknanda catchment area in the Middle Western Himalayas. Now, it is famous for its tree hugging campaign to prevent cutting down of trees. Again, Chipko movement, as the name itself indicates, that they used to hug the trees in order to prevent the cutting down of trees. It was started by an activist called Sundarlal Bahuguna in 1970 to prevent down the cutting of trees. Now, there were frequent floods in the Alaknanda river catchment area due to the loss of vegetation. Now, why was this movement started was there was frequent flooding in the Alaknanda river catchment area due to loss of vegetation. Since there is loss of vegetation if there is loss of vegetation along the river banks, they are not able to hold the top layer of the soil together, as a result of which soil erosion occurs. So, huge loss of vegetation as well as loss in other terms, in terms of flood, etc., were seen in the Alaknanda area. In 1960, in order to maintain border security, a vast network of roads were constructed in this area. Now, since this lies in the region of the Western Himalayas, in order to bring about or introduce border security, a huge number of roads were constructed in this particular area in the 1960s. So as a result of which, chopping down the trees and rolling them down the hills loosened the upper soil, which eroded further due to the rains. So what used to do is they used to chop down the trees and roll them down the hills. So as a result of which, the upper soil which was seen as a loose layer, also started eroding further due to the rains. This resulted in the disastrous flood in July 1970. So, as a result of which, what happened is this resulted in the disastrous floods. That is, there was soil erosion that was happening due to the movement of the trees, as well as due to loss of vegetation. There was soil erosion that was happening, and as a result of which, when the water level started increasing, it flooded the Alaknanda catchment area. In 1973, the Forest Department also allotted ash trees to a private company. This provoked the Dasholi Gram Swarajya Sangha, who protested by lying down in front of timber trucks. Apart from all these disasters that they had caused, in 1973, the Forest Department of that particular area allotted ash trees, that is, the trees which can be burnt or they can be used, who can be used as ash, to a private company. Now, as a result of which, this provoked, or an area or a group of people in that area was formed called as the Dasholi Gram Swaraj Sangha, and they protested against this act of ash trees by lying down in front of the trucks which used to carry the timber. Now, when all these above methods failed, one of the leaders, called as Chandi Prasad Bhatt, suggested embracing the trees to prevent them from cutting. So they tried all the movements, to all the possible ways to to prevent the deforestation. That is, they started lying down in front of the timber trucks. They started protesting against the cutting down of trees. When all these methods failed, finally what they did is they started embracing the trees or hugging the trees so that people would not come forward to cut it. With its success, the movement spread to surrounding regions facing similar consequences. That is, when this happened, and that as a result of this hugging of trees, the concept of the movement became successful. That is, the afforestation or cutting down of trees in that area was stopped. As a result of this, the movement, after seeing this movement also spread to other regions. That is, other surrounding areas also started using these similar methods of hugging the trees, and thereby prevented deforestation. A similar movement was held or carried out, or performed by activists in South India, in the Western Ghats, and it was called as the Appiko movement, because Appiko in regional language, or the regional language of Karnataka, is Kannada, which means to hug the trees. So a similar movement was carried out there also. Now, coming to the Silent Valley movement, it was a movement which was initiated to protect the Silent Valley and evergreen tropical forest in the Palakkad district of India. So there is a region called Silent Valley in the Palakkad district of India, and there was a movement which was started to protect this region in 1973. It was started to prevent the establishment of a hydroelectric project. Now, there was a Silent Valley in the Palakkad district, and there were plans of setting up a hydroelectric project there. So, in order to prevent this, the Silent Valley movement was started in 1973. Silent Valley has a rich 89 square kilometer tropical virgin forest. So, the Silent Valley is nothing but it is filled with tropical green lush virgin forest, about 89 square kilometers of it. In 1980s, a 200 megawatt hydroelectric dam was proposed to be constructed on the clear waters of Kuntipura under the Kudremukh project. So under the Kudremukh project, they had decided to set up a dam of hydroelectric dam of 200 megawatts in order to use the waters of the Kuntipura to generate the hydroelectricity, or to generate power in general. So that was the plan, or that was the scheme of the government there. It was not environmentally feasible because it would drown a chunk of the valuable rainforest, and a host of endangered species and flora and fauna would be destroyed. So this was not acceptable, or this was not okay with the localites, because setting up this hydropower project would lead to the destruction of the trees which were present there, and will lead to the endangerment of the flora and fauna which are typically present only in that particular area, or the endemic species. This movement challenges the idea that energy generated by the dam would benefit the rural people of Kerala, but in reality, the energy was to be exported to industrialized areas of Kerala. So, when these activists, or when the put up the case in the court, the people who are for the hydroelectric power, they said that the energy that is generated by the dam would benefit the rural people, but actually that was not the case. The energy that was produced by the power plant was going to be supplied to the industries or the industrialized areas of Kerala. So as a result of it, that could be used as a point, or that could be used as a negative point against the project. The Silent Valley, and finally they were successful. This movement was successful, and the hydroelectric power plant was not set up there, and the Silent Valley was declared as a Silent Valley National Park in 1985. So Finally, there was no hydroelectric project that was established there, and that valley was declared as the Silent Valley National Park in 1985. So that was about the Silent Valley movement. Apart from this, there have also been certain, eminent movements like the Narmada Bachao Andolan and, like we said, the Chipko Movement, etc. So all these movements have tried to bring about certain changes in the mindset of people and thereby protect the environment for our future generations. Thank you.